Look at this cow. Look at her fly load. That's a little bit more than I like. So I'm doing some things to try to attenuate that without using ear tags and pour-ons. And you've seen my previous video, or can look at my previous video, where we sprayed the cattle one time when the fly burden was just excessive and we needed to knock them down. And I want to tell you, I don't prefer to do that, only because I don't like to do anything that's not natural. But we were in a little bit of a bind at that point in time with regard to cattle performance was declining, and they were just having a tough time. So I want to detail for you today another option to consider. And as we look at the cattle and listen to this cow munching on grass, it's a beautiful life. And if you're not into regenerative agriculture, or if you are into regenerative agriculture, this is what it's all about: raising the cattle naturally on good forage and ensuring the health and safety of our food supply. Most beautiful sound in the world. I'm going to show you this cow. This cow has very few flies on her, and she doesn't seem to be disturbed by what's on her to a very significant degree. But some of these other cows have quite a few flies on them, and I wanted to not only talk about feeding your cattle minerals and the benefits of that and the necessity of that, but I also wanted to talk about another method of fly control, which will piggyback on our previous video that we made regarding spraying the cattle for flies. So some of these cows have a pretty significant fly burden, and some of them don't, and part of that probably is a little bit on the genetic side and oily skin side, but quite a difference in these two cows here with regard to fly burden. The mineral that I've chosen to use currently is called Wind and Rain Cattle Mineral, made by Purina. And the one I've chosen also has the addition of a product called Altacid, which is a product that prevents hornfly eggs from developing into larvae that can hatch and then make the adult hornfly. So this is a free choice product. They say it's weather resistant because it has a little heavier particle than some other mineral supplements, and it's got all the research and all the right stuff behind it. There's macro minerals, trace minerals, vitamins A, D, and E, and they formulated this so that it helps your cattle be healthy in a variety of ways. It stimulates appetite, protects fetal development with all the elements needed for proper development of the fetus. It helps with immune function, bone development, provides a healthy immune or nervous system, hair coat, fertility, which is a big one. You want to get your cattle's bred. That's enhanced with these minerals. Muscle development for meat production on grass, milk production, skin and hoof health. Just a very good generalized bagged mineral. And so I chose to do this instead of the Greg Judy cafeteria style 16 hole mineral feeder that has a different mineral in each of those 16 holes. And not because I think that that's inappropriate, but rather because it's fairly expensive. The minerals have to be shipped from another state, and so the shipping costs are a little bit cost prohibitive. But I think that's an excellent system with a large number of cattle. But for smaller herds like mine, I'm very happy with the Wind and Rain made by Purina. And again, the Altacid, which is an insect growth regulator, helps by when we feed the mineral, the cattle eat it. The horn flies that are on the cattle lay their eggs in the manure. The Altacid is passed through the cow into the manure. It prevents larval hatching, and therefore you don't get the adult flies. So it should dramatically decrease horn fly production. And they've got approximate dates on when you need to feed it, depending on your location in the country. In the south, they recommend starting to feed around March 15th, which would be appropriate for my location. And as you go further north, then later in the spring is fine. So this is the choice that I've currently settled on, and I've been happy with it so far. I think I still have some significant fly burden on some cows, and I'm going to hopefully genetically select for that based on watching those cows and culling them as is appropriate at the appropriate time. So just wanted to give you that information, and then we're going to show you some mineral feeders that I currently have. In some pastures, I feed my mineral just in a loose feeder like this. You can see they've been hitting this pretty hard, and you can even see there's some cow saliva in there this morning from them having eaten it. And as long as it's not going to rain or nothing in the forecast, then I'll keep this with mineral in it and let them eat it as they will. I put 50 pounds in here on Thursday this week. Today is Saturday, and they went through it pretty hard, but I hadn't had any out for the preceding 4 days. So this is one way to feed mineral. And again, I don't like to feed it loose like this in an open container when it's wet, because it just washes all the junk out of it and it cakes up real hard. So but this is one option, and I'll show you others. Here's another option for feeding your mineral, and this feeder is basically like a weather vane. It is designed to move away from the weather or away from the wind so that it keeps the contents from getting wet. It's got a good wide base on it. I've not had the cattle tip this over. I don't have anything in this pasture, so that's why it's empty. But it's an okay system. It holds 50 pounds or a couple salt blocks if you decide to put salt blocks in there. 2 different compartments. It's a good system. It's a little bulky to move if you decide to move it pasture to pasture. That's why I like other options better. But again, just a secondary choice for feeding mineral. Here's my preferred mineral feeder. It's called a bull feeder by some, mineral feeder by others. You can find them at any farm and ranch store. I've also seen them online, but I suspect the shipping cost would be pretty incredible. But this is a 3-bin mineral feeder, and the cattle just lift up the flap with their nose and they go to eating the mineral. So this has got Purina Wind and Rain in it. All 3 spots have the mineral in it, and I'm pretty convinced that if you will keep this mineral out, you will at least decrease your fly burden. You won't end it, but hopefully decrease it. And I've not done a very good job keeping it out and making sure they don't run out, but I'm going to try to pay a little bit better attention to that. So a bowl feeder for feeding your minerals, you can move it pasture to pasture. It is a little heavy, particularly if you have any feed or any mineral still in it, but works very well and keeps the mineral from getting wet.